Hello everyone, good morning or good afternoon. Also Happy New Year, and I want to congratulate you guys on finishing up your 2 years of your program. It's bittersweet, but on to the next chapter right now. So kind of start changing, your thought process and get ready for the next stage in your lives and careers. I really hope that this works this time, and I hope there's no glitches or anything that messes up. If there is by any chance, then I guess just reach out to me and I'll just try sending just a PDF alone, just so you guys could view it. Otherwise, let's just kind of pray this works out, because I've tried this several times and I'm not the most tech savvy person. My name is Arman. I'm a Leeds Beckett graduated in 2017. I'm currently practicing out of Toronto in MSK in orthopedics. And Sarah asked me to do this. I thought it was a brilliant idea, just because we never really had anything like this when we were graduating. We certainly could have used it. We kind of went in with minimal information and understanding of what the process really is like. So hopefully this will be able to clarify some things for you guys, answer some questions. And really the goal of this whole thing is to help you guys out and make this whole process as efficient as possible, to really minimize any room for error, just because it's going to set you guys back several weeks or even months. Now you might hear me say that throughout the presentation, but I can't stress it enough. So let's get started. So the things that we're going to be going over today are the 5 big steps to getting licensed, the cost of this whole process, the exam dates, the time frame, some advice, and some resources. I try to keep this thing concise with some good information, hopefully. I don't know if you guys are able to, whatever you could extract from it. So the 5 steps, there's 5 big steps that are involved. The first one is starting off by filling out Form D, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide, and then having the school send that out to the CAPR. Some forms that you got to send out: A, B, C, and I think just some documentation or some identification and another piece of document that will be in the next slide. An online course that you guys have to complete. It's about 3 weeks in length, and it's really just for internationally trained physios that are coming to Canada to practice, and it covers a few things that are in the Canadian system that we might not be aware of, really. You need to have finished that course to be able to actually write the written exam. And you could still apply for the written exam and get accepted to write it. However, they won't allow you to write it until you actually pass that course. After you pass the written exam, you have your provisional eligibility, you can practice, and then you have your practical exam. So this is Form D. I can't remember exactly what Form D was, but I think it was just filling up some clinical hours. There you go. Detailed supervised clinical practice hours. Now this page is from, I just screenshotted it from the presentation that you could find on the website, the CAPR website. I'll leave a link at the end of the presentation, but you could just simply Google it. I think the presentation is about 10 minutes in length or so. I recommend watching it. It goes very into detail with a lot of things, but it's still useful. It's good to go through. Dan does a spot-on job with filling everything out on the university's end. There wasn't any issues, at least not from our year. I know of several different universities from the UK that have messed up some of the small minor things that have set people back several weeks. So she does a really good job at that. You just got to make sure that you fill out the things that you need to fill out properly, and just give it off to her. Documents from you. So Form A, B, C, and some supporting identity documents, and then the notarized copy of your entry to practice the PT degree. I got that signed by a lawyer in Toronto, and I think I paid around $40 to $50. When I checked in Leeds, it was, I think, something around 50 to 80 quid. So you might want to hold off until you get back to get that signed by a lawyer. And the forms. So here's some tips for filling out the forms. Now this is very important. So you need to make sure that you fill the papers out correctly. And I know this might sound like common sense and you think, okay, I'm going to do so, but I'm being dead serious. Take your time filling this stuff out. Any small little mistake will set you back several weeks and even up to 1 to 2 months with them. And they're very particular with how they want things done. So you got to keep it consistent, which leads me to the next thing is your signatures. So every time you write your signature, you want to keep your signature consistent with every single on every single form that you fill out, and every single date, every single name. The name I think I'm gonna the next thing is if you have a middle name, you need to make sure that the middle name is on your degree. You need to make sure your middle name is on your Form D. So you let Diane know, and you just keep your name consistent. There's been several people that I know with middle names that were going through this process that there was some inconsistency with their application, and I think on maybe 1 or 2 of them they didn't write their middle name, or their middle name wasn't put in the degree. So you need to make sure that all that is clear, and make sure you communicate that with Diane. And I just can't stress that enough. It set a few friends of mine back about 1 or 2 months. So keep it consistent. Read over your application 3 times on different days. I just said 3. You don't have to necessarily have exactly 3 times, but make sure you do it on different days. I've had to rewrite my application I think 2 times because of one small little mistake, just because I was so paranoid about messing up. And I actually think I did mess up on my credit card number, and then that set me back a few weeks. So have everything, make sure everything is perfectly filled out. So the written exam. So once you fill all that stuff out, you send it off to them and you get cleared. You're able to write the written exam. They just say that you need to be enrolled in the course. So once you're enrolled in the course, then after you finish the course, then you send them an update, and then you're fully cleared to write the written exam. So this is the format of the written exam. So it's conducted throughout various cities. There's 200 multiple choice questions. It's all done on computer. You got to go into the place for sure, obviously. You could kind of change or mark your questions. So if you're on question 4 and you're not really sure about it, you could just bookmark it. You could finish the entire exam and then go back and change question 4. It's 4 hours long in duration, vignette style. So you have like different cases. Like let's say you have one case, and the next four questions are pertaining to that case. They have practice questions on the CAPR website. Use those. They're actually very helpful because it gives you an understanding of how they're going to be asking these questions and what type of questions they're going to be asking. That's huge. Use the website. The website is your guide. And also another thing to mention is it's done in different cities. It doesn't really matter which city you do it in. What I say is just do it in the city that you're closest to make the whole day as easy and as smooth as possible, to minimize stress. People are going to tell you different things, that they did it in this city or this area and it was a lot easier. It's the same thing nationwide. Okay? Just go to where is close to home or wherever that you're staying. Just so you're familiar and you're used to the drive, and you just want to minimize any type of stress that day. Passing grade varies. People are going to tell you different things. And this is the thing. You're going to hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people, but at the end of the day, we don't really know. Okay? So just take it with a grain of salt. So I think out of the past 3 or 4 exams, most of them have been around 330 has been the general passing mark-ish, but there's been up to ones of 430 or 450. What that means, I don't really know, to be honest. You have 200 questions, but clearly, like, it's not just 1 mark per question, and some of the questions they don't even count. I'm not really sure how they do it, but I do know that they have certain questions that hold a certain value. So if you have the best possible answer would be A, then A, for example, could be 4 points. Then the second best possible answer could be C, and C could have 3 points. And it kind of works like that. So you have to basically choose the best possible answer. And you want to make sure that when you're actually studying for this exam, that you're, one, helping each other out. I'm going to say that several times. Make sure you guys help each other out. Whatever resources you have, pass it around. Because at the end of the day, you guys are all trying to get through this. So you could have some resources that somebody else doesn't have, and you guys exchange, and it just helps you out. Also, the other thing is you got to be careful. I don't know if I have this later on in my slides or not, but I might go over it again. But when you're doing the written exam, you need to be careful of where you're getting your information from, and if you're using prior exams that are American, because they're American exams, and you're going to come across some American questions that are going to be completely different to the style of questions that are on the Canadian exams. Okay, and also different material, because they do a lot of wound care stuff. They go more in depth with other things that we don't really need to know. So just be careful of the date of the exams that you're getting, the practice exams, and then where it's from. Okay, and the style. Remember, this is all vignette style. So if it's not like that, then it's probably not Canadian. So, okay, so some of the tips. So you want to start studying for about 2-3 months prior to. Don't stress yourself out, and start studying maybe like a month prior. You're gonna hear of, like, the odd person that passed with studying. They went hard for that whole month and ended up passing. There are people like that, but I say if you're working, which you're probably going to be, you want to minimize any stress throughout this whole process, because you're going to be stressed. There's no denying that. So start early. Use the CIPR questions as a guide. Use the website. Use the website prior to studying, to get an understanding of what things and the breakdown of it, because cardiorespiratory is an X amount, neuro is an X amount, and MSK is an X amount. And then don't leave it to the last minute. Help each other out, I mentioned before, and take a prep course. So the prep courses I'll kind of state in the end, but they really, really do help. You don't have to, but they really do help. So keep relating back to the website before you actually study, and then while you're studying, use it as a reference to make sure that you're on the right track and studying the right things. The clinical exam, now you guys don't have to worry about this for quite a while, but it's on here. You guys could refer back to this when you need to, or if you need to. So the clinical exam is approximately 6 to 8 hours long, 16 stations, 8 10-minute stations, and then 8 5-minute stations, and you have about a 30 to 45 minute break in between. It doesn't necessarily go in that order of 10 first or 5 first. You get one or the other. It's pretty long. It's stressful. It is, but it's very, very doable. That's for sure. So the cost of this whole thing. This is the kicker. Next few slides are a bit depressing, actually, but it's the truth. So the initial application is just over $1,000. I think the price. I think this is the most updated price, but maybe like $30 more. The online course, which is that 3-week one, is about $450. The written exam is $927. The practical exam is $1,760, and it's a total minimum of $4,200. Now, if you fail either of the exams, you have to pay the full amount to write it again. Okay, so they don't give you any breaks or any discounts or anything like that. You got to pay the full $927 if you fail the written exam, and you got to pay the full $1,760 if you fail the practical. Now, this is not including any prep courses either. So the written exam dates, so these are the 2018 dates. I didn't get the 2019 dates. However, they're usually in the same month. Okay, the months don't change. The days might change around a little bit, but for the most part, this is the number. So I put the red of the ones that you guys will probably be looking into, which is in May, the written component. This is the applications you guys got to apply by March if you want to write the May one. But anyway, you could access all this stuff online. But this is just to give you an understanding of how long or how early you got to start applying if you want to write it on these dates. I think I wrote mine in July, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's where actually everybody in our class that I know wrote it in July. So, and let's say if God forbid you failed, then you have to write again in September or November. Okay. And then that's right, clinical exam dates are only twice a year. That's important to note. Okay. So with written component you get several chances, but the clinical you only get it's only twice a year. So the time frame of this is all approximately, right? Credentiating takes roughly 6 to 10 weeks. It usually tends to be closer to 6 weeks. The written exam date is about 8 to 10 weeks. The written exam results take roughly 6 weeks. Oh, right, this is important. I almost forgot this. So the provisional practice, that takes around 2 weeks. So once you pass the written exam, you get provisional eligibility to practice. Now, once you have your provisional eligibility, or in order to get your provisional eligibility, you need a supervisor. That supervisor needs to be practicing for, I think they changed it to about, 3 years now instead of 2. So they need to be a licensed physiotherapist for 3 years, and they're willing to sign off on you. Now this supervisor, they don't need to sign off on your notes or anything like that, or they need to be there when you're practicing. They just need to deem that you're competent, and they take responsibility in case you do mess up or there's any issues. So wherever you're going to be applying, one thing that you might want to think about early on is there a potential physio that could be your supervisor or is willing to be your supervisor? I know when I finished, I struggled to get a supervisor because I didn't know any physios that were practicing for 3 years, right? So that set me back a few months. But if you start early and wherever you do apply, kind of take that into consideration, because that'll be a huge help. Your clinical exam day will be roughly 8 to 12 weeks from when you get your provisional practice, or from when you write your written exam. And then the clinical exam results take like 8 to 12 weeks. The earliest I've heard was 9 weeks. So you just have to sit around and wait, really. And so this whole process takes roughly 9 to 12 months, usually, and even more. So if you fail any of it, then it could take up to a year and a half-ish. It depends on if you really fail. So if you do fail, it's okay. I failed my written exam, and I ended up taking a prep course, which was a good idea. I think I start talking about that in some of the advice. Okay, so here we go. So a few things that to hopefully help you guys out is this whole thing is going to be rough. It's not going to be pleasant. It's stressful. It sucks. It's the reality. I'm just telling you guys this so you guys have an understanding of what to expect. I didn't expect any of this. None of us did. So hopefully this will just give you somewhat of an understanding, so you basically have more tools in your toolbox to kind of, use when you're going through this whole thing. You're going to be nervous. There's no stopping that. Don't try and fight being nervous. You're going to be nervous. Accept you're going to be nervous, and know that everybody that's doing the exam, written or practical, is going to be nervous, especially the practical. But it's okay. You're gonna forget about most of the stuff by 10, 20, 30 minutes into it. So use imagery or visualization. Watch the video online for the clinical exam. This has been pivotal to this whole process for me. I used imagery, or I used visualization a few weeks leading up to the exam, and then a few weeks prior to receiving my actual grade. Now, with I'll just talk about, let's say, the written. The written, I use some visualization. Probably I try to do it every night for about 5 or 10 minutes, and just kind of picture myself on the seat in that exam room, and feeling, nervous. I visualize myself feeling nervous. I visualize myself getting certain answers right. Or thinking certain answers were easy. I also visualize myself thinking certain answers were wrong. So every case, basically my brain was already wired for, and it wasn't anything too new, because I already accepted that I was gonna feel those things. So that helped a lot. And with the clinical exam, I watched the online video, because with the clinical, it's a little bit different, because you're going to be dealing with patients. So to have an understanding of the environment and what the rooms kind of look like, or just how the whole process works, the clinical exam on the website, it helps a lot. So I highly recommend viewing it before doing the clinical, or before even studying, and refer back to it and use that, and just kind of picture yourself going through different scenarios, good and bad. And when it comes down to the marks, I was literally picturing myself opening up my laptop, and I would actually do it on my phone. Funny enough, is I pictured getting the email and clicking it, and then, because you get an email, and then you go into the website and you just type in your actual number that they give you, and then all it says is literally pass or fail. That's it. So I pictured just seeing pass, 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 and it works. The stuff really works. You use that with, obviously, putting a lot of hard work and time into it, but it works. You guys will be good. Just prepare accordingly. Don't underestimate the difficulty exam. So it's not easy, but it's not impossible either. Yeah, so after you finish the exam, you're going to feel like you failed, but that's normal. Everybody feels like that, because it's such a strange exam. There's no definitive answer, because they haven't even, it's the best possible answer. It's just like you're clinically reasoning. You have different clinicians that will do different things. So that's what they take into account when they write these exams, is there's no definitive answer. Past exams, be careful. I mentioned that earlier. So the O'Sullivan book so that's the other thing, is there's no real text or one body of information that you could kind of go in, and one body or resource that you could kind of go to get everything that's involved in this exam. So the thing that everyone's going to be talking about is the O'Sullivan. That's like the closest thing we really have, which is an American book. You need to be careful with this. I have the book, but I never even opened it, because it's all American. The exam, the questions, the content, and all that stuff. Now you could use it, but just be very careful. Take a prep course. So I took a prep course. I took a prep course for my written, and I also took a prep course for my clinical. Had I not taken a prep course, especially for the clinical, I don't think I would have passed the first time around. So these are the prep courses that I know of. There's plenty of different ones, but so a few resources you could use are PTDI and PT Exam Prep. Now there are different exam courses out there, or prep courses out there, and these are the ones that I'm familiar with. I took the PT Exam Prep for the written, and I took the clinical prep course for the PTDI. I highly recommend the clinical PTDI course, the prep course. They have a prep course and a boot camp. I attached a link. You could check that out online. And the PT Exam Prep, you could Just Google it and it'll come up. This one is more pricey. I've taken it. The written course for the PTDI, I also highly recommend. I know the guys that do the PTDI course, the prep course, they do a very good job. These guys, it's you're gonna feel very, if you do take this course, you're gonna feel a lot more confident going into it. They're very thorough. They cover a lot of basically everything really, and the format is done over the span of 4 weeks, and it's once a week on a Saturday or Sunday for about 9 to 10 hours, and there's 3 to 4 instructors. Class sizes are relatively small, I think up to about 18 to 20, and they give you food and coffee every single week. So that's a huge bonus. And honestly, for the price that you're paying and what you're getting, it's really good value. There are other courses that are pretty expensive, but in terms of the best bang for your buck, it's really cheap. I contacted him and asked how much the price for the written course is. You could check it out online, but I think he said it's going to start around $600 to $700, which is, like I said, very cheap. And I know the product is going to be very, very good. If you don't get a chance to do any of these, or any other course for the clinical prep course, or for the clinical exam, sorry, then I highly recommend doing at least a workshop. So you do a workshop, which it kind of prepares you, tells you everything that's involved in the practical exam. And I think U of T also has mock exams, so that's the other thing that is really useful. So you could check it out all on the website here. And I think PTDI also has a mock exam as well. So mock exam you have to do. I highly recommend. It's going to get you prepared for it a few weeks prior to the exam. Nothing too close. Don't take one that's like a week before. Usually they tend to be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks prior to the actual exam date, and it just lets you know where you really are. You might think you're very ready, but as soon as you start seeing a new new face, then your nerves start to kick in because you've been practicing with your friends and people and colleagues and people that you're comfortable with. So you're not necessarily going to be too nervous. But as soon as you see some new faces, then it becomes a lot more challenging, and that's basically how the actual exam goes. So definitely take a mock exam, or even two. The prep courses help. You got to pay the money up front initially, but you know what? You've come this far, right? That's just the way I see it. You're investing in yourself. You've came this far. You might as well spend the extra grand to get your license, because if this is going to help you out, you only have 3 attempts. Remember, you only have 3 attempts for the written, and you only have 3 attempts for the clinical. And if you fail all 3, then you're not able to practice. So you might as well just, it sucks, I know. You might as well spend a little bit more. You're more prepared. You're going into battle on these 2 days. So the more equipped you are, the better it is. I hope that covers most things. If you guys have any questions that wasn't on the PowerPoint, you guys can contact me. This is my email. And best of luck. And any further questions, like I said, feel free to contact me. Thank you.